Friends, Brian here today for Yes You Can Play Guitar. And you know what? Today, we're going to talk about a guitar. Yes, we are. Hey, that rhymed. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. I've had a number of requests over the past year and a half for this. My Jackson Demmelition guitar. Okay? So first, a little background. Number one, I'm not sponsored or endorsed. This isn't a paid advertisement. I'm doing this video as an honest review between me and a few thousand friends, some of whom happen to play guitar. Why Jackson? Well, of course, we all know that Jackson made guitars for the late, great Randy Rhoads. And for me personally, I have always been a fan of Phil Demmel from Violence. Many of you also know him from his stint with Machine Head. I also happen to have the pleasure this week of talking to the man himself. What a treat it was. If you haven't seen my interview with Phil Demmel yet, check it out. The link is below. So another thing with Jackson, back in the day, I had a lot of strikes against me when I was younger when it came to playing in bands. Number one, I didn't really have much hair. There's no way I could have ever grown my hair long if my life depended on it. I tried. Those were the 2 days where I had a mullet in my life. I was always a bigger guy. I didn't fit the rocker profile. I liked to go to the gym. I liked working out. So I was a bigger guy. A lot of bands were kind of like, oh no, we don't want that. We need, again, keeping to old musician profiles in the 80s. I was never really into drugs. I was never into drinking. So I had a lot of things working against me. If I had some good looking guitars and maybe with the ability to play them, that might help me out a little bit. And people could overlook all my other shortcomings. I owned a Jackson guitar back in, I think it was 1994 I got one. I think it was like an RR3. It was a Japanese made one. It was a shark fin. In Canada, I remember we called them shark tail shaped guitar body. I loved the guitar. It was a great guitar. It had the pearl dot inlays, and it had, I think it had stock Jackson pickups, but man, they still sounded pretty good. Nonetheless, I loved the guitar, but I remember about 10 years later, stories of a starving musician. I had to sell the guitar to actually have Christmas in the home I was in that year. I started my channel in 2020. A lot of things going on that year. My life was very crazy at the time. But August of 2021 is when I actually started working on my channel. And I knew that going forward, I wanted to have a guitar that I really liked and had a bit of attitude. I don't like guitars that look like a piece of wood. Some people do. That's cool. Not for me. Jackson makes some pretty sleek looking guitars. I wanted a guitar that I knew would be good. I knew that would stand out, that would have attitude. And you know, if you get a guitar with Phil Demmel's name on it, you know it's going to be pretty good. So let's talk a little bit about it. We'll go over the specs. So this is the, I think, is this the PDX line, okay? So Phil and I talked about that this week. So let me do a rundown here, okay? It's an alder body. There's a maple bolt-on neck, okay? Now, in our discussion, I explained to Phil, I've always been a bolt-on neck guy. I wanted to tell you too, I've always been a bolt-on neck guy. So I like the lower end model. I love everything about it. Sure. I'm going to be posting a review on it very soon.
Well, tell me why. What is it about the bolt-on? I don't know. I don't know a lot about guitars, so.
Most of my guitars from before, the guitars I learned on the old, like Ibanez models and everything, they all had bolt-on necks. The neck-through body guitars, I don't know what it is. I've never been a neck-through body guy when it came to electric guitars. It doesn't seem to bother me on acoustic, but on electric guitars, it's like just a little weird. You know, we had a bit of a discussion about that in our interview. Anyway, it is on my agenda to get one of the higher end ones. 24 frets, compound radius, rosewood fretboard, okay? The frets, playing it, it's very easy, very slick, I love it. Shark fin inlays, which I also like. You know, the dot ones, they're kind of old. You know, when you see the ones with the dots, it's like, nah, give me something a little more flashy. By the way, just so you guys know, I totally chose the really cheesy 80s metal strap. That was my choosing. You know, nothing like going overboard with it, right? Especially when, you can't go back to those years and you never had any hair. And it also has a dual EMG HZ pickups. Now, these are the passive, so I know for a lot of the hardcore EMG fans out there for the 81s and the 85s, which are amazing pickups, these are pretty good, man. I gotta tell you, they're pretty good. They're pretty passable. And also it comes with, it's a 3-way switch for your pickups, bridge and neck pickups all the way. I hate middle pickups, so this suits me fine. And also, interestingly, no tone knobs, which is fantastic. In all my years of playing, I've never used a tone knob. Can't stand the things. They get in the way. Each pickup has its own volume pot, which is pretty cool. Another thing with the product, I would like to point out, the trem system here, it is a double locking Jackson. So it's similar to a Floyd Rose. I haven't gone crazy with it like I would with my official Floyd Rose bridges, but it seems to do pretty good. Problems, of course, you always want to get your guitar properly set up, but I've never really had any problems with it not staying in tune, so it stays in tune really nice as well. There's some weight to it, but it's pretty easy to hold. Another thing I love about it, I was telling Phil this too, I like to have the guitar over my left leg. Well, obviously with a V you can't do that, but with this one here, the way it can go on your leg, it's very balanced when you sit down and practice, and you still feel like you're in the classical position. I also use this guitar in a cover song I put up. I did more of a metal version of a Haas Take On Me about a year and a half ago. For the riffing, it's chunky, like how I like my soup. For alternate picking on this guitar, on this beautiful neck, you might get a speeding ticket. Sweet picking on this neck, it's glorious, like a sweet slice of heaven. Now for the clean, okay, so I'm going to go to a clean setting, and you know, when you're a metal player, do you really care about how clean your cleans are? But you know what? If that's the case, man, maybe you need to get some single coils, okay? But anyway, this is clean with the middle switch selector. So guys, that is my review of the Jackson PDX, I believe it's called, forgive me if I'm wrong, version of the Jackson Demmelition guitar. I love the guitar, and I definitely want to check it out further by getting more of the higher end one, even though it has a neck through body. Again, when I told Phil about that, he simply said,
you know, I'm sure I could probably adjust to the neck through body with just sitting down with it for an hour.
You'll be fine.
I absolutely love the guitar. Jackson, you did good. Remember guys, practice hard, practice smart, no excuses, and we'll see you soon.